And not super skip through everything, but I wanted to have enough. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I wish there was like Albedo just sort of somewhere standing around here that we would like run into him. Talk to him on the way up. We do have a very important part coming up here in a moment, so... this will be interesting. So it's nighttime. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna... yeah, I'm gonna actually fix the time so that we have more time in the dark, and then I want to see if the cutscene that happens on the other side of this and give us enough time to go through stuff on the inside. I want to see if the cutscene when we come back outside will also be in the dark the same way that we got the rain thing earlier. Ooh, also, let's claim this real quick. So we got Barbara on our team. Really interesting that she is Jean's little sister. I didn't know that for like the longest time. Okay. Okay, it did get rid of that. Okay, it's one less little like event banner to deal with.
こちらは教会から天空のライアーを回収しに来た祈祷牧師のバーバラだ。
風神のご加護があらんこと。代理団長と比べてそういう言葉を口にする資格はないかもしれないけど、皆さんモンドを守ってくれて本当にありがとう。
I do like Barbara a little bit better in the
平和に解決できてよかっ
Japanese.
た。本当に風魔竜と戦うことになっていたらどうなっていたことか。
ああ、これでファデュイも口出しできなくなった。こんな風になって。
Yeah, they have the same color eyes, I think, but their hair is slightly different.
セピロス騎士団に圧力をかける理由を失ったからな。スネージナヤが横暴だというイメージを植え付けただけで、外交の進展は。はい
はい。それで天空のライアーを持ってきてくれたわよね。代理団長の担保も無限じゃないわ。枢機卿に何度催促されたことか。持ってきたけど。ちょっとな。貸し出し料とかは必要ないから安心して。教会には寄付金があるもの。
I don't think I ever noticed how much like Christian iconography she has on her, which is kind of weird.
その。いやー、天空のライアだー。アルバドス様、バーバラは一生かけて謝罪をしても足りないわよ。はあ、いいや。天空のライアーを僕に貸して。
I like how she doesn't like
天空のライアーが。あ、オイラにも見せてくれ。ダメ。どう直したかはわからないけど、 天空の
But
ライ
you'll
アーは
never
もう貸
touch
せないわ。
the you'll never touch it ever again.
さて逃げようか。僕が天空のライアーを修復する現実、いや魔法 100% 完全無欠じゃないからね。
It's not 100%. Even Dean's like, oh. I like how she didn't question him using his power in such a way like that. Like, that shouldn't be like a normal thing. Like, even if you have a vision, I wouldn't imagine that that would be like a normal thing. Ooh, it is night. Uh-oh. See, we have all this sus stuff. And Paimon got immediately frozen. You saw her, like, in the background?
あら、ハムスターが見つかってよかったわ。
Last.
木の杭や米の袋に噛みついてモンドに迷惑をかけたんじゃない？
それはハムスターじゃなくてネズミだと。
今はあんたの話なんてどうでもいいの。無礼な銀融詩人。統率を諦めたモンドの神。今はこの程度なのね。
君が僕を嘲笑えるの
Yeah, I
は
feel like
その主
he's
人の
on
力の
purpose.
おかげかな。
That part on purpose, goading her into doing this.
ああ、これが神の心。集めているチェスの駒とは程遠いわね。
She actually says chess piece
君
there.
にセンスがないからだと思うよ。
And one of the first times we hear nature speak.
神の心を手に入れたもの。行きましょう。騎士団が来る前に証拠を残さないようにね。
Yeah, so I think he goaded her to do that on purpose.
栄誉騎士、目が覚めたんだね。
I think he goaded her to do that on purpose. I don't think he realized it was gonna, like, hurt or take as much power out of him, so, like, it still had that, like, kind of a bit of shock or whatever. But, like, so much of everything in that scene, I feel like he could have done something different. Like, because we've seen him, like, zip away in a second before, but, and he could have easily just done that, even if his legs were trapped. He could have, you know, turned into a wisp of wind, because we saw it at the very beginning, when he was talking to Dvalin in the little forest thing, and we interrupt them, and then, like, in a second, he's just zoop gone. And he, you know, zips around, like, later, teleporting and whatever. And so, like, we know that's an ability that he could have done here as well. And then I don't buy that his power is so weak to not be able to get rid of some ice around his legs. And then at the same time that he's doing that, and it's like he's trying to put on a show of not being able to remove the ice so that it would goad her into attacking him and taking the Gnosis. Because I don't think he didn't really need the Gnosis. I don't even think he wanted the Gnosis anymore. Because that's not, like, it amplifies his power, but it's not his power, technically. And so he doesn't seem particularly worried about trying to get it back, or worried that she took it, per se. It's almost like he wanted her to take it. Because I feel like there's some other stuff that he's not, that he knows that he doesn't end up telling us. Same thing with, like, Zhongli and trading for it. A had already taken the gnosis out of her and given it to Yae to hold onto. Miko to hold onto. And so, like, none of the Archons so far seem particularly interested in protecting their own gnosises. And then I think with Nahida's, she still has hers, I believe. And I think she also has the Inazuma one. That was gonna be put into Scaramouche's big mech body when he was trying to ascend to become a god and an archon. I think they were gonna use the same one that I'd have to look at the video again to double check which piece it is, which chess piece it is, but I think it's the same one as his mother's, essentially. And then Nahida stopped hers from being taken by Dottore, I believe. I don't remember if she traded it or not. I don't think she did, though. But I think she's, like, one of the only few that has hers still. And potentially the other piece. Unless she traded the other piece to Dottore. I can't remember. But, regardless. So, like, most of the Archons don't even really care about their chess pieces anymore. Whatever it's, you know, the Fatui are going to use all of them for. That is yet to be determined. Alright, so... I always pick this one, Venti, is he alright? So I'm actually gonna go a little bit like, oh, well, what planet are we on? Because I think that'd be kind of funny.
星なあバーバラ、こいつの言うことは気にしないでくれ。わかった。とにかくあなたたちが大聖堂の外で
Okay,
倒
so
れ
that
ている
doesn't
こと
really
に
do
気づいて
anything.
元素力で治療したんだけど。お前はバーバラの治療をもっと受けた方がいい。特にあの詩人は先に目が覚めてね。でもおかしいんだ。私の治療が彼の傷には全然効かなくて。こんな患者は初めて。彼はこれが普通だよって言いながら大聖堂を出て行ったんだけど。出て行った？どこに行ったんだ？モンドの英雄の象徴。彼はそう言ってたよ。止めようとしたけど、ジン団長が行かせてやってくれって言うから。
I think Jane
確か
understands.
ウェンティは前にあの木の下で傷を癒してたよな。風神と風たちの地のつながりが理由だろうな。きっとジンも気づいたはずだけど、バーバラには言えないよな。
I like how she's like telepathically trying to convey this to us through her facial expressions, but this is like her inside thoughts, which we don't get very often, I don't think, because she usually just says stuff, and it's kind of annoying for a bit how much she talks. Okay.
あなたたちを襲ったのはファデュイ？ジン団長はさっき騎士団本部に帰ったよ。でももし彼らが何の証拠も残していなかったら騎士団も。
If this was Fontaine, I'd be a reliable first-person witness. Okay, we're just gonna teleport over here real quick. Because we are almost done with this our conquest. Let's heal up. And that's... I don't think I ever noticed that. He's like getting like actual power from the tree.
お前って本当にせっかちだな。
Get that one.
風だ。
Yeah, it's like a physical... Like I said, I think it hurt a little bit more than he was expecting. Plus, you know, since he was asleep before and not at full power before all of this, I do think, you know, he was kind of like weak and stuff, but like even like the weakest Archon I still feel like should have done more than what he ended up doing. Also, he's like cut and reformed and shaped all of Mondstadt, changed its entire ecological system to be green and nice pretty much all the time. Cut Pylos Peak off and shunted it out here to become Musk Reef. And just like all of this land is shaped by him. That's why it's all like kind of like wild and wacky and weird and like just sort of like everywhere. It's like almost artificially created. So it's not like cohesive like some of the other areas. But yeah, I don't think I ever noticed like him like physically pulling energy from the tree, which is kind of interesting. I wonder if that's just how he is even before all of like this whole story happens, if he feels like he's often down on his luck even, you know, back during the Archon War and before that. Yeah, how could I know it?
一般人に話せる内容じゃないんだけどね。でも君にならこっそり教えてもいいかな。君も知ってると思うけど、神の目はごくわずかな人しか持てない外付けの魔力機関だ。それを持つ者たちは神の目を通して元素力を導いている。
Yes.
実はね、神の目の所有者はみんな神になる資格を持っているんだよ。その者たちは原神と呼ばれて天空の島に登る資格があるんだ。
Did y'all catch that, guys? The one time they use the word Genshin. Genshin. So yeah, so the reason why Genshin is called Genshin is about allergenes. Genshin is allergenes. So the literal translation of like Gin and Shin can mean original kami. In English or like what is the word? Primitive kami or like original kami. The first iteration, origin of something kami. in Japanese, and I believe it uses the same kanji and kind of the same meaning in Chinese, but I think they might use a slightly different saying for it potentially. Because I don't know their phonetic system very well. But as far as like Japanese and stuff goes, which is as far as like Japanese relates to the Chinese, it uses the same kanji, the same literal translation. Which when you're dealing with kanji, there's this whole thing about like even though you have like literal translation of each individual kanji meaning stuff, it's like full meaning can be different when you take the whole word as a whole, as well as like the concept that it's trying to convey. Because like saying original kami or like original god as the English tries to say, it kind of makes it sound like they're talking about like like one original god at the beginning of everything, and like it's talking about a specific kind of god. But in Japanese, they don't have plurals the same way that English does. Like if you say, for example, neko in Japanese, which means cat, but it can also mean cats plural with an S. And so just saying neko by itself, you don't know if you're talking about one cat or many cats, because they don't distinguish plurals like that. If you wanted to let someone know that you're specifically talking about more than one cat or multiple cats or like a group of cats, you can say like nekotachi, and tachi kind of means group. So like they specifically would have to add that if they want to distinguish, but they don't have to necessarily do that to talk about multiple things. It's why like words like sushi and kimono and objects and stuff like that, it really bothers me when I hear people say like, oh, I bought some kimonos, and they add like their own S into the end, or I bought some sushis, or something like that. Like, you don't say that because sushi or kimono already denotes probably more than one thing, or through context, if you only got one of those things, you are like, through context, you know that it's talking about the one thing. Or if you got multiple ones and you say like, I got some kimono, like, you, through context, a person would know, oh, they got multiple kimono, without needing to signify it with some sort of like letter at the end. So that's a slight pet peeve of mine that happens in quite a lot of stuff. And a lot of like even Japanese speakers learning English will do this because I feel like they think that they have to like Americanize it a lot more, but like they don't need to. And going the other way, a lot of Japanese American learners that I know or that I've talked to, learning, who are Japanese American but like learning Japanese as like a second language, don't do that as much because they know that like the word means both and you don't have to like completely translate it that way, if that makes sense. But because English is a second language going the other direction, that I don't think it gets kind of like lost in translation of like where they think, oh, well, I'm speaking English, so I need to make things more Englishized, if that makes sense. So that's a side tangent, a little bit of pet peeve and vocab grammar lesson as far as that go. But back to Genshin. So in English and with the literal translation, it makes it seem like you're talking about like one thing, but like when you're talking about Genshin in terms of like this, it can mean like multiple Genshin, multiple allergenes, which are these people. Genshin, so like I said, individually, you have the literal translation of original kami, because Shin is like in Shinto, you have the way of the kami. Kami, again, in English, it always gets translated to God, even though that is imperfect and it should never be translated. Shin and Kami is the same character. One is just one form of reading. I think it's the own reading. I always get them backwards. One of them is like the more like Chinese derivative pronunciation, I guess you could say, and the other one is the a more original Japanese pronunciation for the same character. Shin and then Kami. Kami comes from Kamui, which is the Ainu word for Kami, which is the indigenous Ainu are the indigenous people of Japan who were there before I think it's Yamato bloodline was introduced. The Ainu originally settled that area and had their own like they have, because they're Ainu are still there, they have their own religion and language and culture and everything, but it is like the basis for folk Japanese when the two Yamato bloodline and the Ainu bloodlines like merge to become essentially the Japanese people of today, and like what Japanese culture is today. A lot of it is influenced by the Ainu people, even if the Ainu people are not recognized like they should be. They're working on it, I think, and a little bit of more recognition has happened in the last couple of years, but it's still a long way to go, and they're losing a lot of their customs and, you know, everything. But still, so you have Shin and Kami for the same character, and Kami, and it shouldn't really be translated into anything, really, because Kami is a lot of different things, but like everybody can be Kami, and everything can be Kami. Kami, like, because I didn't think I was gonna get into this to explain this, but so in Shinto, everything has a spirit of some kind, or like some kind of energy, some kind of divineness. I think in Japanese the most often word used is mitama, which it relates to like the soul. Everything has like a soul, or something similar to like a soul. Because Shinto is an animistic faith. It's not a religion per se. It's for lack of a better word, it's really like a faith lifestyle area. Spirituality would be better than actual religion, because there's no doctrine, there's no like formal rules to follow in terms of like like how in Western civilization you have like the Ten Commandments or that kind of stuff. Shinto has like none of that. It has no one founding leader or no one person that someone has to follow. Like there's no equivalent to like a pope or whatever. There's like none of that. Like it's personal personal spirituality, personal faith, and personal lifestyle based. But it's all like nature surrounded by like a layer of nature worship in the most basic terms that I can think of to explain that. But in animism in general, there's the belief that like everything has a quote unquote soul or equivalent to some kind of energy within them. So like picking up a rock, that rock is a living thing in the world. It has its own soul. It may not like be sentient or something like that. If you don't believe in all of this to that extent, but it is still like a part of the world. It has energy in the world. And I think on like even a scientific level, there you can at least agree to some extent that yes, everything has some level of energy, whether it's kinetic energy or I forget the opposite to kinetic energy, the other energy. Everything's made out of atoms vibrating and you know, power from the sun, you know, makes stuff happen with the plants and trees, and it makes the world's weather patterns. So you have things like erosion of rocks and mountains and the movement of rivers. And so like concepts like a whole river having its own like life, for lack of a better term. So like everything that you touch, see, interact with, even concepts like wisdom, love, hope, courage, those things can even be considered kami in some way. But anything that has like that ability to have mitama is kami, including your ancestors and including yourself and including animals. You know, it's just like everything has that energy. So everything is kami. So in terms of Genshin, you have the original, the Gen and the Shin. So the original or the primitive or like the basis of kami. The basis of you know, in this context with visions and having this elemental power and stuff, being called allogenes. These are like the first like the people with power, receiving power, I guess would be the best way to sort of say that, because they're the ones that can obtain in at least the English translation godhood to ascend to Celestia, because these are like sort of like chosen people, I guess. I don't know how like into I was gonna say chemistry, that's not it. Biology, this whole thing gets, like if only certain people can become Genshin slash allogenes because of like a biological thing. Like I don't know how far back the story goes of like, is it related? Like, you know how you have all the Conrians are like considered their own group to the point where they were biologically changed in their story by Celestia or by someone in Celestia. Or I still am unsure if Celestia is a single person or is just the name of the place or both. So I have to clarify that. So I don't know if it's by Celestia or whoever is running Celestia up in Celestia. But that like group is considered like their own group, and then you have the Archons who considered like their own kind of thing. Or not the Archons. Sorry, the Sealies. You have like them; they're considered like their own race of stuff. The Arnara, which are their own like created race. You have the Genie, which were their own created race. I assume you have like all of these like nature spirits, which would have like kind of their own thing. Like Venti started out as a literal sprite, a wisp of wind. And there's probably more out there kind of like that. So I don't know if of humans, if there's like a specific part of the population that it's like biologically sort of unlocks them to become allogenes. Because allogene is like an actual biological thing IRL as well, I believe. I think it has to do with like your chromosomes and like a specific chromosome setup or something like that. I'd have to look into the origin of that word in particular. But I want to say I remember seeing it whenever I was looking up some stuff about like chromosomal stuff. So I don't know if it has any link to being chosen as the English word or not. So yeah, like Genshin being this base primitive, the origin would be probably maybe the best term, the origin of Kami. Or an origin of Kami. Like one allogene is not all the whole entirety origin, but like collectively all of allogenes could be considered like an origin, maybe. We don't have enough historical lore information about all of this, because this is like the one time in the entirety of the series where we hear such terms. Every other time it's wielder of a vision, and they use vision Kami no Me, which is like the eyes of Kami. And then I forget the word for wielder, but like they don't use Genshin in anywhere else in the entirety of the series except for this one line with Venti telling us that wielders of Kami no Me are known as Genshin. And Genshin being talking about Kami, the origin of Kami. That is interesting. Very interesting silhouette. Very pretty. Sorry, I'm grabbing a screenshot of that actually, so I can have that for the sun completely. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has ever noticed that, because in English, well, I know some people have noticed it because I've seen videos of people talking about it, but only people that like go and do these like videos where they're paying attention to different dubs and subs and stuff. Most English ones that do like English playthroughs of this don't usually realize this unless they go looking for the answer for it. And I just think it's really interesting because there's like a whole like this is like it's because it's the one time that you hear them use Genshin in the language, and it's referencing this word that in English is the only time that we get reference to allergenes. In a direct way, I should say, because I believe they do talk about people with as wielders of visions and whatnot. They kind of talk about how people are granted visions by archons and whatnot. But like, it's never so direct as this, and it never will be as directive as this, at least up until 3.8, which is what I'm playing now. So that is, I think it is important enough to keep in the back of your mind when you're thinking about that kind of stuff. And like when you're, especially if you hear people talk about Genshin talking about an original god, quote unquote, I've seen people mistakenly try to attribute that literal translation of the individual kanji, try to attribute it to the unknown god at the beginning of the series. They try to be like, oh, what if it's referencing like her, or what if it's referencing like another god, the god that she serves, or something silly like that. And it's like, no, it's not. Genshin Impact literally it literally just means, in the most easiest way to put it, like the impact that vision wielders have in this world. It's the vision wielder's impact. If you wanna translate it a different way, it's the wielder of a vision's impact on this world. or the, you could even kind of turn it around a little bit and be like the impact that a vision wielder has, is what this game is about. And like, as you being the main character, not wielding a vision, but like surrounding yourself with all of these people and meeting all of these people that have visions, that are taking things into their own hands somewhat, and helping you on your journey. And like, we've met a bunch of people that are like questioning the existence of Teyvat, such as like Albedo and stuff. Vision wielders really are having an impact on this land, and you are there to witness it and help push it forward, and all of the vision builders will be there to be at your side by the end of it, hopefully. So yeah, like anytime you see people talking about Genshin and allergenes and the trying to link it back to the unknown god at the beginning of the series or something like that, that is not true. And as far as like Japanese linguistics and stuff, like, I'm not an expert by any means. I'm just, a Japanese American nerd who's been trying to learn Japanese for the past over 14 years. I think it's getting closer. Like, the last time I looked, it was getting closer to like maybe 16. I don't know. I haven't done the math on it. The last time I remember doing math on it was around 14, but it's been a while since that, so it could be closer to like 16, maybe 17 years. Regardless, like, I've been studying all of this for like a really long time. And even though my proficiency is not like super high, I probably only have like a in 4 level of conversation. Um, because I don't live in a place that has a thriving Japanese community. I don't have a lot of Japanese, you know, friends or family that also know Japanese and all of that good stuff. I can't take actual Japanese lessons or travel or anything like that because things cost money and we live in a capitalist hellhole. Uh, so like everything I've had to learn has been through my own effort of putting in time to go out of my way and learn it myself, or try to talk to people in like groups that do live in Japan. And in terms of like stuff related to Shinto, because I do consider myself a Shinto practitioner because that is what I choose to follow. Um, uh, I've had the honor to talking to uh, other Shinto practitioners and Shinto priests and Shinto shrine maidens, Miko. I have talked to some Miko directly about all of this stuff, and gotten their opinions on all of this, and them teaching me things about Japan and Japanese language and the uh, relationship between Shinto culture and stuff. So while I am unfortunate at this point of like physically being able to be there, everything else I put in is to try and reconnect to my personal roots because my family, you know, uh, being in America, um, has kind of strayed away from that, for various reasons that I will not get into in this video. But I'm just trying to say this because I feel like it's good to know that for reference, I'm not just saying this stuff because I read like one article or watched one anime about something. I'm trying to um put out some educational viewpoint of after many years of studying and legitimately um what's the word, like legitimately um caring for my heritage, to try and reclaim some of it back in any way that I can, as respectfully as I can. Because I even consider myself, even though I am um, Japanese by blood, like I still want to respect Japanese nationality, um, their culture, like on a nationality based level. Because like me being Japanese in America is way different, culturally speaking. So I still feel like I should respect a lot of that stuff. So anything that I learn, I try to learn it as close to the sources as possible. Double check, triple check, octuple check sometimes with a lot of different people, just to kind of like understand as much as I can with the limited resources as I can. And in terms of relating this back to Genshin, uh, things like doing this where I get to listen to the Japanese and try to understand it vocally, which I grab a bunch of it vocally and can sort of understand it in my head. It's really hard translating it back into English, which is why I use the English subtitles. Um, So but I like having the practice of being able to listen to it and see if I can understand as much as I can. And then learning vocab through that. I've wanted to do a playthrough or get to a point where I can do both the voice and the subtitles in Japanese to see if I can understand reading it at some point. But my proficiency level is not high enough because I can't pay to get a tutor at my current poverty level. Unfortunately. And it wasn't an offered type of class in high school to get me a leg up in any way, unfortunately. So sorry for all of the rambling. I know this isn't quite how I thought this video would end. But I think all of that's like really important to understand when you're talking about a game that is crossing so many cultural boundaries. And like, even though this is originally a Chinese game, so they probably have a slightly different take on what all of this means in relationship to my playthrough and the way that the Japanese and the English intermix with each other. I just like it to be fairly clear that a lot of the stuff that is said in Japanese is not translated very well into English. Whenever I bring it up, like anytime anything that has to do with like archons, the mention of God, godhood, ascension, visions, and all of that kind of like stuff, it always gets translated very weird. Talking about like the wind god and stuff like that, and usually they say something like Fujin, which is like literally means like wind person, but Fujin is also the name of a wind kami, which was of a pair, Fujin and Raijin. In Shinto and I believe also Buddhist folklore. It has merits in both faiths. But Fujin and Raijin were actual, like, are actual IRL folklore figures. But in this, they also say Fujin for wind god or whatever. But in, folklore, it's a kami. It's considered more of a kami. Or a Buddhist, bodhisattva, I think, is the term in Buddhist terminology. It's like a very specific thing related to that, but they don't use that word in here because God is just so, like, the go-to word for stuff. So, like, that lost in translation of, like, how deep that meaning actually goes. I feel like Fujin and, like, when you're talking about kami in terms of a wind kami, it gives it much more meaning, talking about how the wind has mitama and has soul and is alive in its own way. And the kami is physically the wind versus like being the god of something is like a way different vibe to me anyways. Like a flower kami and a flower god are different things because flower kami is the actual flower, whereas god, a flower god is like a god of over flowers or of flowers, not the flower itself. So like it's nuance, and I guess it's just it bothers me because like I put so much effort into like wanting to respect that nuance. I know it's not like necessarily needed for everybody to do that to enjoy a game, but that's just how I kind of feel about the whole situation. So the whole like Genshin thing, yeah, I'm gonna be excited to learn more about it in the future when they finally get around to doing that. But yeah, Genshin, Allergenes are the same thing. Vision wielders are Allergenes / Genshin. Because we all have, you know, this elemental power in us, and we're all kami, and you know, blah 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 blah. Somehow trying to tie up the end of this rant. I'm sorry. So keep this in mind. I'm sure it'll come up later, but this is it. Genshin has come up in the story, and allergenes are very important.
原神
Yeah.
聞いたことがない言葉だな。
Shin, I think, can also, is really close to the kanji for something else. Related to humans. The kanji for person is, hito in Japanese, and jin in, jin is its other reading. It's onyomi reading, I think. The Chinese origin, I think, is jin, which is really close to shin. And I think in some terms, jin turns into shin for the reading. I think. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'd have to check some grammar books. But I believe I've heard it used in that way before, where you use like a term like, in this case, like Genshin, because Shin is at the end, it could be talking about like, it could have, in a hypothetical situation, we'll just say, if it used a different kanji for Jin, because it's in the second spot, sometimes the saying will change because of its placement. I forget the term of when that happens in languages in general. There's a term for it. Because you wouldn't say Genjin in that thing, in that hypothetical situation. The J would turn into like a different sound to make it flow better. But I digress. I'm pretty sure, though, it has like some relation I've seen in the past.
それは本当の神しか知らない秘密だからね。とにかく僕たちは神の目という初歩的な機関はいらないんだ。
Let's use this primitive here as well. So we understand that this is a secret that only Archons are privy to about allergenes, about Genshin, and that they don't need primitive tools like visions, like most, like Genshin, wielders or Genshin people, do. Vision wielders need these primitive kami no me, eyes of the kami, to use.
その代わり神の魔力機関は天空の島と共鳴してつながっている。それが神の心だよ。
And so this is interesting because Archons have an internal magical focus that resonates directly with Celestia itself, known as a gnosis, which is, in Japanese, he said, Kami no Kokoro, which means the heart of Kami. Um, but we know that they don't actually need this. No, they don't need the gnosis. They don't need the kami no kokoro to still have power and stuff. That is just a magical focus that makes their power greater. It amplifies it.
ただの光るガラス玉だよ。不要な疑いを避けるためのね。
じゃあさ、さっき会ってすぐオイラを
Oh yeah, I did send Paimon flying. I don't know if y'all really saw that, but like when she does her ice thing in that scene, you can see Paimon be completely encased in ice and go like flying off towards the back. So she was just in like completely frozen in a big hunk of ice, like not even like partially frozen or knocked out or something, like just the whole, she was like completely encased in it and just tossed off to the side because I guess they wanted to have some kind of excuse for Paimon not interrupting or saying something. It's really funny.
彼女はシニョーラ。ファデュイ11人の執行官の第8位。コードネーム、淑女だよ。
Oh, he adds in her code name. He says, like, her name is Senora 8 of the Harbingers, and then code name something, but I didn't catch it. So, in Japanese, they kind of give her, like, full title with code name and everything. Let me just get, like, this first bit.
ファデュイの執行官は、みんな彼女のように、スネージュナヤの助行によって、神のような権力を与えられ、凡人を超えた力を手に入れた。
And then, of course, we get to learn about the Harbingers having special, godlike executive authority by the Tsaritsa of Snezhnaya, which is the Cryo Archon.
スネージナヤの助行?
Yeah, Snezhnaya no Joko, Queen, I believe. Joel is Queen. I think Cole might just be like a higher it might be a suffix for a higher tier. So like Empress maybe would be a better term. Jolko could be Empress. Snezhnaya and Empress, but in terms of us knowing in English that Snezhnaya is kind of a Russian thing, they use the word Tsaritsa.
七神の一柱、スネージュナヤパレスに鎮座する氷の助行。ファトス全員が忠誠を誓う唯一の相手だよ。
And then she reigns from Zapolyarny, which I believe is like one of the first couple times that we actually hear that term used for her castle or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't get used maybe more than one other time. So we find out that this palace is called Zapolyarny.
七神間の関係は全員仲がいいわけではないけど、まさか彼女が他の神から神の心を奪おうとする
Honestly,
とは。
I don't think that the Tsaritsa is the one plotting to steal other Archons and Narcissus, because like even Venti, having known her, wouldn't think that she would stoop to that level. And like everything that we've seen with the Gnosis is related to the Harbingers working kind of behind the scenes. Like the Tsaritsa may not even know that the Harbingers are doing all of this behind her back, or there's either they're doing it for the will of the Tsaritsa and the Tsaritsa knows about it, and that's like one thing. But like it's another if they're doing it for the quote will of the Tsaritsa and she doesn't know about it, because we don't know about the Tsaritsa. We don't know what state she's in, because there's I wouldn't say conflicting stuff about it, but there's definitely like a there's definitely like a different stories about the Tsaritsa saying like she's cold and cut off from the rest of the world and stuff like that. And I don't think that she rules her place very nicely, especially because she's given over authority to the Harbingers, who have decided to rule Snezhnaya very authoritarian-like, from what I've gathered. So we don't know what the Tsaritsa knows. Like, for all we know, the Tsaritsa is locked away or has locked herself away on purpose, or is like sleeping or whatever, like how Vinti was asleep for like a long time or whatever, and like the Harbingers are trying to hide that fact from the people. Or another theory I've seen has been that the Harbinger, like that she's the cryophyte Archon is completely like dead, and like the Harbingers, or at least the main guy, I forget his name, out of the 11, that the main guy is like hiding it from the rest of the Harbingers at the very least, and is like trying to take over power, and pretend like everything, like she's still alive. I've heard that theory floated around, and they're doing all of this. That even the Harbingers are doing stuff for the Tsaritsa without knowing the truth. So there's like a bunch of different cool theories, and I can't wait until we get to that area. But we'll have to see what happens in Fontaine first, with the Fatui and the Harbingers there, because they're messing with things there. So maybe we'll get more.
あー、なんて言えばいいかな。500年前の彼女を僕は知ってるけど、今の彼女はよく知らないんだ。
And so we know 500 years ago is when the Conria thing happened, and Venti knew them well. It's been 500 years, so it could be way different.
500年前のとある大きな災害の後、彼女は僕とのつながりをすべて絶ったからね。
And see, this makes me wonder. Cut all ties off, so maybe he doesn't even know, like if we are going with the her being already dead theory, like then he wouldn't even know. It would explain her being having all the ties cut off and stuff. Another thing is that during the catastrophe, maybe one of them sided with one side of the war and the other sided with Celestia or something. And so through some sort of like disagreement, they could have been on opposite sides, which caused her to cut off ties. Something else could have happened that made her become reclusive to some extent, and change her whole worldview, like if she lost a loved one, or if they do something like along that lines with the story, because we don't know. Yeah. Because, like, I've heard some theories that the Tsaritsa was like the embodiment of like love or something like that, and that she wanted love for people and everything, but became cold and distant and hardened, quote, hardened her heart. I think it was the term, the phrase used, which led a lot of people to believe that maybe she was an archon of some kind of like love or adoration or something.
でも氷の神とファデュイのことは後でまた話すよ。七神を全員探すとなると、君の旅はおそらく困難に満ちることだろう。
Yeah, and this is one of the few times where Venti is more Barabatos than Venti.
まずはモンドの隣国に行くといい。あそこの岩の神は僕と違って自らリーユへ全域を治めてるから。彼は年に一度だけ公の場に降臨して信託を下し、リーユへの新たな一年の経営方針を民に伝えるんだ。
それでもその仕事の頻度は誰かさんより上だな。
とにかく今年のゲーセン儀式はもうすぐ始まるみたいだ。うん。逃したらまた一年待つことになる。
はあ、そんな大事なことをなんで早く言わないんだよ。じゃあな、早く行こう。
待って、風を捕まえる異邦人。ありがたく使っておくれ。僕にダンディライオン種をおごってくれたらなおさらいいけど。
I like how he apologizes to Venti for taking his power. I wish they would have talked a little bit more about like how he, like Venti saying like, I've never seen someone else being able to wield power without a vision besides other archons or something.
旅人、君が再び旅に出た時、旅そのものの意味を忘れないでほしい。
And there's that song. This is on the main screen. It's a little harp, Venti's little tune that he likes to play. The journey itself has meaning. See, even he's like cryptic in the same way of like, you are, you know, you're setting off on your journey and, you know, the journey itself has meaning, and then you have the Abyss Twin that says we'll meet at journey's end. You know, the journey is important and all of that.
テイワットの鳥、歌と城、女工、ファデュイと魔物、みんな君の旅の一部だ。
The birds of Teyvat. Songs and cities are pretty, yeah. Streets of Fatui and monsters.
終点は全てを意味するわけではない。終点にたどり着く前、君の目でこの世界を観察するといい。
Yeah. And then there's this phrase which comes up a lot. So before you reach the end, this phrasing and similar to this phrasing comes up quite a lot. Your journey's end and stuff.
うん。風神の忠告はここまで。ここから先はウェンティの時間だ。
Venti time.
僕に聞きたいことがあったら今聞いておくれ。
Okay, I'm not gonna go through all of
ずっ
these.
と同じ場所にはとどまらないよ。
Well, I guess maybe I should. I'll go through them kind of quick, so if you want to, like, read through it, you can pause. Pause on each of them, so I have them in the video, but I'm not gonna, like, spend time.
彼は最後まで、だから僕は彼からその責任を取っ払って、トワリン自身に自由の意味を理解して、だって僕も神になる前はこうしてある。
僕に聞きたいことがあったら今聞いておくれ。
ガイアがなるほど。アビス教団の姫という人、トワリンをアビス教団の戦いの道具にするつもりだったのかな。でも僕もでもその最近になって出てきた姫は、
僕に聞きたいことがあったら。
さっきのファデュイの執行官。
それは騎士団の目撃者を、だってこんなことをして証拠でも残してしまったら、
こんなことをしたくせによくも
アビス教団の脅威に対抗するために七国の人々は同盟を結ぶべきだったのに。
I do wonder about this because apparently they've been in this sort of like situation before where they could have focused against the Abyss Order in the past and they never did. So I wonder what that has to do with the calamity 500 years ago. If they decided not to band together during that time, or like could they have stopped the calamity? Because I'm sure the Abyss Order had something to do with that as well.
ファデュイは七国最強を誇る武力を持っている。それを天空のライアーの窃盗。
天空のライアーといえば、ファデュイが七国をカッポし、セピロス騎士団の脅威となっ。
そう、さっき僕が言ったように、彼らは氷の神から氷の女皇。もう500年も会っていないな。彼女は一体何を今回の件の真相は、君の七神を探す旅に未知の影響を与えるかもしれない。
僕に聞きたいことがあったら今聞いて。
さっきも言ったように、神の目の所有者はこの世界で原神と呼ばれ、天空の島に登る資格がある。
シムシャ。
神の心はより上位の元素制御中枢で七神の座を象徴するものだよ。ごめんね。僕も七神のうち、そういえば僕も七神の一柱としてまだ自分。
でも銀融野郎の姿は一つの化身だし、見た目で判断し。
確かに僕たち。
I do like it, Paimon questions that this is just one
君が
incarnation.
妹を見つけたら新しい四風守護になってみない？
お前、なんだか興味。銀融
I'd
野郎
totally become one of the
四
four
風守護
winds.
になれば人からうまいお供え物がもらえる。
僕に聞きたいことがあったら今聞いておくれ。
I'm gonna do this one more time because I wanted to hear the
ず
first
っと
line
同じ場
said
所には
again.
とどまらないよ。さっきも言ったように、神の目の所有者はこの世界で原神と呼ばれ、
Genshin.
天
Okay.
空の島に登る資格がある。
Shoyusha. So, Kami no Me Shoyusha is what Vision Wilders is.
神の心は、ごめんね。
We're gonna skip through all of
そういえば
this.
確
銀融
僕に聞きたいことがあったら。
じゃあ早くリーユへに行くといい。
Okay. I have to be rank 32, I think, to get do the TCG stuff. A lot of stuff is unlocks then. Alright. Unlocked a bunch of domains. Grab this real quick. Okay, so I can get the quest through the pre-dawn night to unlock. So I can do quick start if I want. that makes me happy to know that I can do that, and that... I'm just like, I don't know if I need to go unlock more map first. Yeah, I don't need to do that. This is going into Liyue. There's a bunch of like side stuff that I need to do. This is going into Liyue. So I have I still need to do Lisa's, Shanling's, Deluxe, and then Razors, which I might do all of these first before getting into Liyue stuff. Because I think if I really try to focus on it, I can do each of those episodes an hour at a time and get those done and banged out in like a day. I just need to actually remember to keep up with editing, which I have so much to do. I might on that a little bit later. So I'm just running because I'm like trying to clear my head of everything. There's like so much to unpack. So Quincy's already gone, it looks like. Once you de-render him, he doesn't come back. Yeah, I'm just trying to like grasp, I'm just trying to grasp it all. A lot of stuff talking about like a bunch of stuff and like trying to figure out what order I want to do all of this in. Because I don't really want to skip the story quests. Like side quests I feel like I can do when you're just dealing with like inconsequential NPCs. That's easy enough for me to say I'm just gonna do those off camera, but like story quests with actual characters and stuff, when you're meeting things and having like repercussions in the main storyline somewhat, because it'll reference it, or you'll see stuff that references to other things. That kind of stuff, it's like I don't really want to do that, but I don't want to like skip ahead in the story either and just like beeline it to Liyue just because, and then like have to come back to Mondstadt later to do all of those things because I've been putting it off. And potentially having more story quests because I've made it to Liyue and unlocked more story quests. And then my story quests list gets so long and that gets like, you know, backed up. So I think I am gonna do that. Especially because there's more of these to get before going into Liyue, where it wants me to resonate with Geo. And I don't quite want to do that yet. So, I think... So what do I have? Well, I do have enough for a cheeky tin pool. Oh. Not quite enough to get this yet, but... Okay, so we'll end with a cheeky chin pull here in a second. So I think I'm gonna decide to. So I also have to think about I have 41 days, so I mean I have time on this account to get through all of the story stuff and whatever events it wants me to do to get the free, quest rewards and whatnot. It's my main account that I actually have to put some time and effort into clearing. 100%ing everything as far as that goes. So what I think I'm going to do is, before going to Liyue, I'm going to do these story quests in the next few episodes, because I can record them essentially back to back to back. And still have time to get to the event stuff and everything. And get that all figured out. So the next video you will more than likely see will be Lisa's quest, and then Shanling's quest, Diluc's quest, and if I have it unlocked by then, Razor's story quest, to get that all, taken care of and off the board. And then as far as the Archon main story direction, that's whenever I will probably start heading towards Liyue after taking care of all the Mondstadt stuff. And somewhere in between finishing up all of these story quests and the Liyue stuff, I will be doing event stuff related to the new event. Trying to give my first reaction, so I'm gonna have to get around to it sooner rather than later, so that you have my genuine first reaction to all of that content, because I haven't even started it on my main account. And I want to try to hold back a little bit to see if I can get into the event on this alt first, while still having time to do my completionist stuff on my second one. So yeah, so this video has gone on quite a long time. Also, I think what I might end up doing for this video in particular, because there was such a long talking period that kind of went on that went fairly off topic, I think I'm going to pull all of that out and set it aside for a little bit. I don't know if I actually want to add everything that I said into the video, because I want it to be more cohesive with the Davalan storyline and the Archon stuff. So I might release that last portion as maybe an unedited version. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. We'll see. Just because now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of did get distracted in talking about that topic. So for the sake of viewership, maybe if you're there to watch stuff about the Archon quests and stuff, having me go off on I don't know how long it was, a 20-30 minute tangent on Japanese linguistics is probably not very fun for a lot of people. So I might do an edited down version for the main episode, and maybe add in an edited 0.5 kind of episode of the full thing, if that makes sense to do. But yeah, so I hope that plan makes sense. Again, I'm not sure what episode we're on, and I'm not sure how many episodes there are to come exactly, just that I can tell you that probably the next one that you see will be Lisa's story quest. And that I hope you have a wonderful morning, noon, and night. And so we're going to end on our cheeky little tin pool on Eula's banner. Before ending the video, let me double check my pity. I don't think it's a lot. Okay, 7 pages, and I haven't gotten a 5-star. And it's not even a full 7 pages. So 6 times 5 is 30 plus 4, 34. On this banner. So this will go from 34 to 44. Purple? Sacrificial fragments. So it's not even a character. That's sad. Okay, I guess this is a sign I should do more reading or something. More lore study. That makes me a little sad. I was hoping for Mika at least. Okay, so we did our cheeky tin pool, and that does give us enough for. I had like 5 more primos. I could do our wish on here, which this one has more pity, I think. Oh, no. It doesn't have all of my permanent wish information on here. It's been so long that it doesn't even count my my Jaluk. Okay, well, I'm probably still not gonna get anything because I don't think. No, white. And white. Yeah. Alright, well. Cheeky Temple, we got Sacrificial Fragments. There's a new book, and I can put it on a sucrose or something. Alright. Like I said, I hope you have a wonderful morning, noon, or night, and I will see you in the next video.